Sainz's recent bombshell revelation has thrown Ferrari's future into uncertainty, but before we delve into what this means, let's rewind. In the Bahrain Grand Prix, Carlos Sainz recently rocked the track with a podium finish, coming in third ahead of his teammate Charles Leclerc. His aggressive driving style impressed everyone, making bold moves throughout the race. And guess what? Sainz was thrilled to see how his speed compared to Sergio Perez from Red Bull. Now, let's dive into this video today to uncover the full story behind Sainz's bombshell and its implications for Ferrari's future. Here we begin. In Bahrain, Sainz finished third behind Max Verstappen, but he was only 2 seconds behind Sergio Perez in second place. Last year in the same race, Sainz was 25 seconds behind Verstappen, but it was only half of that this time. Last year, Ferrari had problems managing their tires and their car's handling was inconsistent. Ferrari's SF23, last season's car, performed poorly in races compared to qualifying. This was especially noticeable on tougher tracks. Sainz is happy that this year's car, the SF24, allows him to be more aggressive. It's a bit of a relief because the last race where I was attacking was Austria, and we're talking about 13-14 races ago, said Sainz. Then you just had to manage the rest of the races last year, look in the mirrors, and control your pace. There were very few opportunities to overtake people. I love going racing and I love going overtaking, being aggressive and attacking, and with last year's car it was simply impossible to do that. I remember at the car launch saying this year, I wish we had a car to go racing and attack people and not care too much about the tires. And it's exactly what we got. I got an attacking race and a really good pace, and from there, everything felt really good to finish P3. I enjoyed it a lot. In Bahrain, it was clear that Verstappen and Red Bull were ahead in the championship race this year. However, Sainz's performance showed that there could still be some close battles in certain races, especially at tracks like Bahrain's Sakhir circuit, where Red Bull is strong. Red Bull's advantage in Bahrain is what you saw very clearly, Sainz said. I think it's interesting how they can keep the C3 soft tyre alive for a bit longer than the rest, how they tend to overheat a bit less. Maybe that's what makes the car also not as competitive in qualifying and so good in the race in a track like Bahrain. Now we need more samples, but I expect Red Bull will always be better in the race like they were last year. Look at the last 8 races between Charles and me. We managed to get some pole positions and a lot of front rows, but then Max pulled away massively in the race, and Checo was always able to overtake us. I hope that this year's trait is not as exaggerated, and we've made a good step forward in that sense. With this, many people thought Charles Leclerc would be the top driver this season, but he had problems with his brakes during the race. After the race, Sainz told David Coulthard, "I felt really good today. The start wasn't great, but I managed the tyres well. I passed 2 or 3 cars and was able to keep up with the Red Bull, which was a nice surprise. We made good progress, we had a clear plan, we feel more comfortable with the hard tyres. They're a bit trickier because they take longer to warm up and can lock the front wheels, but once they're ready, we can push hard. We were able to try different strategies today." Building on the performance, Sainz is getting ready for his 4th year at Ferrari. He's done well with them, getting 5 pole positions and winning 2 races, but there's big news that he's leaving Ferrari at the end of the year, so he'll have to find another team in Formula 1. At first, Sainz just talked about it on his social media, but then he talked more about it in an interview with Sky Italia. They asked him if he was surprised or upset about Ferrari's decision. Sainz was careful with his words. When they asked if Ferrari could keep doing well in the season, he said, "Let's wait and see. We're going to a new track, so it's a surprise for everyone. I think the teams that were fast on fast tracks will be fast here too. Our car has gotten better at fast tracks, so hopefully we'll do well." Then he said, "No, I wasn't upset. I already knew a lot about Ferrari from being there, so I kind of expected something might change in the future." Sainz wanted to make sure fans knew he was focused on giving his best to Ferrari this season. He said, "I only want to think about doing my best for Ferrari this year." Even though he's turning 30 soon, Sainz feels really excited and ready for the challenge. He said he feels even younger and more excited than before as he prepares to give his all for Ferrari and think about his future. Starting the season with the news of leaving Ferrari isn't the greatest feeling for him. But once he's on the track in Bahrain, he'll only think about pushing himself harder and aiming to win the championship. He believes in himself as a driver, so he's not worried about what's ahead. He said, "I know what I'm capable of, so I'm not stressed about the future. I'm sure good things will come. Right now, my focus is on doing my best with Ferrari." Ferrari has been testing their new F1 car at Fiorano this week. Soon, they'll reveal the SF24 on February 13th. What about Sainz's future? Talking only to motorsport.com last June about his situation, Sainz said, "I'll be honest, it's tough going into the last year of a contract without knowing where I'll race next year. I've been through this with Red Bull and Renault before, and it's not ideal for an athlete or a driver. It's just not right. That's why I've set this winter as a deadline to figure out my future." This view wasn't different from what Ferrari wanted. Team boss Fred Vasseur even said during a Christmas lunch at Maranello that it was a goal to sort out contracts for both Ferrari drivers before the racing started again. "We've had discussions and started working on it, but we're a bit behind schedule," he said back then. "I don't see it as a problem. We'll decide soon." Even though there are 5 weeks left before the deadline for both Sainz and Ferrari, the fact that only Leclerc's announcement was made, instead of both drivers' announcements together, has led some to think that things might not be as certain as hoped. It's believed that Sainz wants to extend his contract for 2 more years until the end of the 2026 season, but it seems like they're still far from reaching an agreement. While they're still talking, there's talk in the background that Alex Albon could be a serious option. He currently drives for Williams and is rumored to be without a contract at the end of this year. On one hand, people may be reading too much into Ferrari announcing Leclerc's contract alone. Unlike other teams, Ferrari usually doesn't announce both drivers at the same time. But there's still plenty of time for Ferrari. Now that they've sorted out Leclerc's situation, they can focus on finalizing Sainz's deal and securing their driver lineup for the next 2 years. Sainz's love for Ferrari. Even though Ferrari decided to let go of Carlos Sainz after the 2024 season, he still deeply loves the iconic Italian team. In a recent interview with Esquire, the 29-year-old shared that he has dreamt of driving for Ferrari since he was a child. When asked if driving for Ferrari was his destiny, Sainz responded, "I'd like to think so. I believe every child who watches Formula One dreams of becoming a Formula One driver, especially for Ferrari. I was fortunate enough to realize that dream and even win 2 races." Sainz also mentioned how he has always felt the incredible warmth of Ferrari's fans right from the start. He felt like a very special man every time he stepped into Ferrari's F1 team office. Although Sainz hasn't achieved his main goal of winning the World Championship with Ferrari, he did manage to win 2 races for the team. His first victory was at the 2022 British Grand Prix, followed by another win at the Singapore GP last year. His victory in Singapore was particularly meaningful as he was the only non-Red Bull driver to win a race that year. As a former McLaren driver, Sainz hopes to continue delivering such strong performances to increase his chances of securing a seat at another top team next year. So what do you think of Sainz's bombshell comment shattering the future of Ferrari? Comment below and subscribe for more.